I got Jesus, I could have won more. this morning. I hope all the Pleasant Hill family, I hope you're able to tune in this morning. I hope you've enjoyed the singing. I want to thank Brad and Leanne for organizing, getting things together, getting this out to you so that we can have a meeting. Guys, this isn't the first time that we kind of been displaced. If you remember 2011 when the tornado come through, we were displaced at that time, and we actually had National Guard and Marine Police just right up the road. If you remember, they had guns and meeting at the end of every road and everything, meeting people to make sure we didn't have looters coming through. So you've kind of been through this before, but I know we're in an uncertain time, and I just want to talk to you this morning a little bit about faith. And we're going to use the story in Genesis 22, 1 through 8, or really 1 through 9, for that story. And what I want you to pay close attention to is the faith that Abraham showed, but there's more to it than just that part of faith that he showed. There's a hidden factor in this that becomes evident as you read the story, and we'll get on into it. We're going to get on into the lesson as we come to you this morning. Pleasant Hill, I love you. I hate that we cannot be together, but please join in with us in prayer, if you will, at this time. Heavenly Father, Lord, we give thanks for those that have come and sang, Father. In this uncertain time, Father, these songs of praise are uplifting. They're uplifting to our soul, Father, and to our heart. We're thankful for those that would lend their voice, that would lend their considerable talent. Father, for Pleasant Hill, Father, we love the music and the worship music at Pleasant Hill so much, Father. We're thankful that these come this morning so we can have this service, Father, and share with our brothers and sisters. As we're unable to meet in body, we are able to meet in one mind and one accord, though, this morning, Father. We're thankful for that. We're thankful you allowed us to come into your house. Thank you for allowing us to preach your message. We love you and we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. We're going to pick up Genesis chapter 22, verse 1. This is very familiar scripture, I'm sure to everyone. But I just want to read down through verse 9, and then we want to share some insight with you that we've prayed over, we've meditated on, and we've asked the Lord's understanding in it. And it's really opened up some things to me as we went over this passage. So if you will, read with me into 22 and 1 of Genesis. And it came to pass after these things that God did tempt Abraham, and said unto him, Abraham, and he said, Behold, here I am. And he said, Take now thy son, thine only son, Isaac, whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains, which I will tell thee of. And Abraham rose up early in the morning, and saddled up his ass, and took two of his young men with him, and Isaac his son, and clave the wood of the burnt offering, and rose up and went into the place of which God had told him. Then on the third day, Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place afar off. And Abraham said to his young men, Abide ye here with us, and I and the lad will go yonder and worship, and come again to you. And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it upon Isaac his son, and took the fire in his hand and the knife, and they went both of them together. And Isaac spake unto Abraham his father, and said, My father. And he said, Here I am, my son. And he said, Behold the fire and the wood. Where is the lamb for a burnt offering? And Abraham said, My son, God will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering. So they went both of them together. And they came to the place where God had told him of. And Abraham built an altar there, laid the wood in order, and bound Isaac his son, and laid him on the altar upon the wood. As I said, this is a story that many have you've heard it preached on many times. You've had Bible lessons on this story. But in an uncertain time, the thing that we have, guys, is we have faith. Abraham, the father of faith. That's something that you and I can rely on when things seem to be upside down, is our faith in Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. And Abraham here is a prime example of the faith that we're to have, but there's something else there. If you'll remember, it says, Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen, in Hebrews 11:1. There's actions going on. There's things going on that sometimes you can't see, but you just simply have to believe. You just simply have to trust. You have to trust. It's who you trust in. Though that's the thing that I think we all need to take into consideration this morning. Who do you trust? Do you trust yourself in these situations? Do you trust yourself to see yourself through in these situations, or do you trust the one that truly holds the power over all this?
Come on.
So I want you to think this morning. I want you to listen to what happened here. As Abraham presented himself to God, he said, "Behold, here I am." That's an important phrase. I mean, he didn't hide behind anything. He said, "Okay, I'm the one that can make a difference. Here I am, Lord. What would you have to do, Lord?" And he told him, he said, "I want you to take thy son, thine only son Isaac." Now you think about it, back in the 21st chapter back over there, we saw where God had made a promise to Abraham that through Isaac the children would be called. He said it would come through Isaac. But yet now here's Abraham, and God's told him, he said, "Take up thine only son." Now in God's eyes, because Ishmael has been removed, Ishmael has been sent away, and God promised his mother to make a great nation out of him and all of that. And that occurred. You can have faith in God in all things. But he calls Isaac his only son, thine only son. Sounds very familiar, doesn't it? For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. Y'all see a parallel there? Do you see something? Here's Abraham, the father of faith, and God is asking to take his son. Was Abraham expected to go to the mountain and do what God had told him to do, to put the son to death? I believe he did. I believe Abraham fully expected for that to occur. I know we read on down, and it said that God would make the lamb, but there's also some writings over in Hebrews that we'll cover just a little bit that says there's something else that Abraham believed. It's a kind of that hidden thing that we have to have faith in, that God that we have to have faith in, that promise that he's made to each one of us. But he already told him to take the only begotten son over there. And also in the third verse, I want you to listen now. Abraham rose up. Now, I already told you some parallels that we're going to see between Abraham and Isaac and God and Jesus. Now, there's going to be some parallels. You follow this. It said Abraham rose up early in the morning and saddled his ass. He had tons of servants. Abraham didn't have to go saddle that ass. All he had to do was point for a servant to go do it, but he didn't. He took it on himself to do it. And also he said that he claimed the wood. And in other words, he gathered up the wood that was to be used. He didn't put this off on anyone else. The Father himself done it. Abraham done it. He took it in and he did exactly what God had put on him to do. He gathered it up and he went on a journey. Now, a lot of times when we want a journey and we go about doing God's work and stuff, at times, man, it seems like the journey gets long. How long do you think that journey was to Abraham? It said 3 days. 3 days. What it says in verse 4, the third day, Abraham lifted up his eyes, saw Mount Moriah, and he knew that was the place. And here's the place, and what you got to understand is how we view things. Right there in the United States, there's so many people that's a glass half full. They're the pessimistic brain. And it's being driven so much by the media, and the media is driven by, we know who most of the time. The bad news is what sells, right? But we see in what goes on right here with Abraham. Abraham lifted up his eyes. He sees the mountain on which he's supposed to go carry his son. He's supposed to offer him as a sacrifice and burn a burnt offering. Yeah. He's supposed to do all those things, but Abraham does not see that as a place of death. Amen. And again, we're going to go to something over in Hebrews here in just a moment to prove out everything that I'm telling you this morning. He did not see that as a place of death. He saw that as a place of life. Now, if you and I had been with Jesus, and we'd have been walking along beside him as he was carrying that cross, and we looked on that hill of Golgotha, to the average man, that was a hill of death. But to the Father, it was a place where life would spring eternal. Amen? And that's the way Abraham's seeing the top of this mountain, Mount Moriah. He's seeing a place of life. He knows because as many have often said, he told the servants to hang there, he and the lad were going to go up. We'll get on more into that. But they would come back. So he saw it as a place of life. He saw it as a place he was going to do what God asked. He would follow the commandment of God, and God the Father would supply everything he needed. Amen? That's simple faith. Simple faith. So Abraham looks at this place, and as they draw closer, man, that it had to be a little bit of angst in there, you would think. Here's that number 3 again, 3 days journey. There was another journey, a 3-day journey. People argue, and the theologians like to argue over what happened during that time of that 3 days where Jesus was. But here's what I do know for a fact. He took those that were in captivity captive. He took what belonged to him. He also gave a proclamation to the spirits that were bound in chains in hell. We know that. That's irrefutable by the Scripture itself. We know that is there. And we know there was a journey. And it wasn't a journey into death. It was a journey to eternal life. Again, Abraham, a man of simple faith, you say, well, man, he's in the hall of fame of faith. I get that. But all Abraham did was believe on what God told him. That's all he did. He believed. He simply believed. He couldn't see how it was all going to work out. He couldn't see that. Remember what Hebrews said? Faith is the substance of things hoped for. Faith is the substance. It isn't faith if you got it in your hand. It isn't faith that it's there, if it's sitting right there in your hand. I know that I'm holding my left hand. That is without a doubt. I know what I've got in my hand. I know I have this tissue in my hand. That's not faith. Faith is knowing that there's something God's given you that's going to be given to you. And not being able to see it. That's where Abraham's at. This 3rd day of his journey, he looks up and it reminded me again of Matthew 16 and 21. It says, from that time forth began Jesus to show his disciples how that he must go into Jerusalem and suffer many things of the elders and chief priests and scribes and be killed and be raised again the 3rd day. Here's the 3rd day journey. Be raised. Did you hear that? Again, what a place. It was a place of sacrifice, but it was a sacrifice unto eternal life. Let's go a little further. Another parallel. Genesis 22 and 6. Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it upon Isaac, his son. And not only is Isaac headed up on that hill to be offered in sacrifice, not only is he headed, still got a little walk ahead of him because they left the servants in the ice there where they was carrying this load. Now he's toting his own piece of wood that would be his death. Isaac had it put on his shoulders by the Father. Does that remind you of anybody? Come on, Pleasant Hill. Does that remind you of anybody? Acts 5 and 30. The God of our fathers raised up Jesus, whom you slew and hanged on a tree. Acts 10 and 39. We're witnesses of all things which he did, both in the land of the Jews and in Jerusalem, whom they slew and hanged on a tree. Acts 13 and 29. When they had fulfilled all that was written of him, they took him down from the tree. Jesus carried the implement that would lead to his physical death. And here's the lies that he's talking up there. Now, some theologians believe because the next story in Genesis is the age that Sarah would pass, and there's a lot are saying that Isaac was probably up in his 30s at this time, maybe as old as 37. I don't believe that Abraham misspoke when he said the lad and I. And I just don't believe you to call a 30-something-year-old man a lad. It's possible. It's possible. I know the way I look upon my kids, but I just don't believe that. I believe that Isaac was a young man. But I also believe there's something really special about Isaac there. He was nobody's fool, because we know that in Genesis 22 and 7, he asked his father, Said Isaac spake unto Abraham his father and said, My father. And he said, Here I am, my son. He said, Hey, we got fire, we got the wood, but where's the burnt offering? Isaac started to pay attention. But did you notice something right there? Abraham turned to him as calm as could be. I believe that with all my heart. He turned to him as calm as he could be and said, My son, God will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering. So they went both of them up together. You know, there was a discussion in heaven, I have no doubt. A discussion between the Father and the Son about the needs of man. I believe that discussion entailed Jesus asking the Father, because the Father knows all things, what must be done, and the Father explained to Jesus without hesitation. Agreed. Not only did Jesus agree, but Jesus stepped forth. And I know this has to be a fact because it said God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. So I know there had to be this discussion, just like Abraham and his son here. But the difference right here, and this is what I was telling you, there's kind of a little bit of hidden stuff in here that we got to see about this thing we call faith, is Abraham could not do anything more than what God told him to do, and do it in faith. All Abraham could do was take Isaac to the top of that hill. All he could do was prepare the animal, carry the wood, saddle. That's all a man could do. That's all he had, because when it come down to time to sacrifice Isaac, he made preparation. He took out the knife, and we know danger stopped. But Abraham was no different than you and I this morning. Had Abraham slew Isaac, and Abraham knew that God did not like a human sacrifice. That was going on at this time. And you didn't hear Abraham question that, because the human sacrifice was prevalent at that time. God had spoken to him. Many times it had been seen. But Abraham never questioned God. That's what our nation needs to do now. The glass half empty bunch that we got out there now. If they looked at the top of Mount Moriah right now, they'd look at it and go, I'm going to have to give my child away up there. I'm not doing it. I mean, I know we're not going to give up the child because we have so many vices, from our addictions to our hobbies to all those things. We won't give up for the Lord right now. So I know we won't give up our children. Would we? Makes you wonder, though. I see a whole lot of children having to raise themselves. I see a whole lot of children doing without things. Would we give our children up to death? See, it goes on in Abraham came and said, My son, God will provide himself a way. And it says in verse 9, it said, they came to the place where God had told him of. And Abraham built an altar there, laid the wood in order, and bound Isaac his son, and laid him on the altar upon the wood. God gave his only begotten Son. He was laid upon wood. Isaiah 53:5 gives a prophecy of he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. Y'all see the parallels right here? Y'all see how Isaac has been bound? Jesus was bound to the cross. Was the nails what bound Jesus to the cross? Was the nails? It wasn't the nails that bound Jesus to the cross. You remember the evening before when he prayed in the garden and he was sweating, literally sweating blood. He asked the Father, was there another way? He said, if there be a way this cup could pass from me? Because see, Jesus didn't want to be separated from his Father. He simply didn't. He knew that, and that's what death means. Death means separation. And more so, death means separation from God. Jesus knew that, but yet he was bound to the cross for mine, for your iniquities and your sin, my sin. And I see little Isaac laying there, and can you imagine, with all that's happened in my family, I just can't imagine my son laying on that cross, or laying on that wood in particular, and me expecting to take a knife and plunge it into his heart. You say, "Lo, faithless man," if you want. Let's say Abraham did sacrifice Isaac. What would it do? Would it have saved the world? Would it have taken the sin from Abraham? No. See, Abraham's just like me and you guys. There's not a thing we can do about our sin unless we have faith to believe in the Father. Unless we have faith to believe. See, Abraham's no different than you and I. We could say he's the father of faith, and yes, he's in the Hall of Fame of faith. He's all those things. But Abraham was a man, and he was limited in what he could do about his own salvation. All that man had was the ability to believe. He had faith. Amen. And you put that faith in God. He didn't see that. He told them, he said, "Me and the lad will return." Not only that, listen, guys, he fully expected to go up there and put Isaac to death. Listen to Hebrews 11:17. By faith, Abraham, when he was tried, offered up Isaac. And he that had received the promises offered up his only begotten son, of whom it was said that in Isaac thou shalt not seed be called. Listen, accounting that God was able to raise him up, even from the dead, from whence he also received him in a figure. See, Abraham trusted so much. He expected to go up. He expected Isaac to be as a burnt offering. He expected God to raise him from the dead, and he'll walk back off that hill with him. That's what Hebrews tells me. See, but he was limited. Abraham was limited. I fully expect the Lord to save the souls of those that he promises. In Romans 10:9, he says that if thou shalt confess with thy mouth, "Lord Jesus," and shalt believe in thine heart that God raised him from the dead, thou shalt be saved. I put my faith in that promise. That's what Abraham put his faith in a promise. God promised him, said, "Isaac, your seed will be called." He fully expected that to occur. He went on the hill. He did everything that God had put on him. And God made the way. God did choose a lamb. Abraham's dead right, but it wasn't that ram that was stuck in the thicket. There's a difference between a lamb and a ram. Amen. That ram was up there. He was tied up in a bush. He couldn't go anywhere. That was the sacrifice that was made. That's all they had at that time. Abraham had put his faith in it. But there's a lamb that was chosen. He come here. It's the Son of God. His name's Jesus. He's coming, and you will have faith in him. There's no need of looking at all the things that's going on in the world right now with a glass half empty. There's no need of looking at those things in dread and fear. Where other people have to look on that mountain as a place of death, we look on that mountain as a place of victory. And it's because our faith is in Jesus Christ. There's no need for the fear. Yes, concern, yes, absolutely. Concern for those that come down with this terrible virus. Those that die from this dreaded virus. There's things worse than dying from a virus. That's the second death. That's the one that we should have the fear of and the loathing of. Man, we buy all kind of protective clothing and equipment. People will run to the grocery stores and they'll run to the medical supply centers and risk even our medical industry of running out just to have them at their home. They'll do everything they can to breathe air that they think is clean. But they simply won't put their faith in the Son of God. The answer during these times of turmoil is a peace that only Jesus can offer you guys. A peace that surpasses all understanding. And it's a peace that Abraham felt walking up that hill up the mountain Moriah that day, knowing full well that the son was going to return. And it's a peace of eternal life, guys. All you have to do is put your faith in Jesus. Let me read 10 and 9 of Romans one more time. That if thou shalt confess with thy mouth the Lord Jesus, concede to him. He's Lord. He's right. Concede. You're Lord. Make my Lord. Concede to him. And believe in thine heart that God raised him from the dead. See, do you look at the tomb of Jesus? Some of that foolishness of preaching, as they say. Do you look at it that way? There's people that'll see this broadcast and they'll look on it and they'll say, that's heretic, he's crazy. I don't believe that. Hey, faith, simple thing. It's all we have. Faith's all Abraham had, and it's all I have. See, I can't work my way to heaven. I can't be good enough. I can't give away enough things. I can't give away enough money. I can't purchase it. I just ask to believe. Abraham couldn't have bought it. Abraham couldn't have purchased it as rich as he was. Abraham couldn't be good enough, but he just simply believed. So what are you going to do with it this morning? You're going to ask them, they're going to sing the song of invitation, because what I want you to do, what I want you to do this morning, while the Lord is talking to you, I want you to bow down where you're at. You know, Abraham prepared an altar and said, altar is a place where you meet the Lord. It's where you meet, and it's at the foot of the cross where the sacrifice is made. Lay everything at the foot of the cross this morning. If you've not already, don't you come to know Jesus as your Lord and Savior? Church, I love you. Thank you for being with us this morning. Man, I miss you. And God bless you. As the singers are going to sing, won't you bow down and give everything to the Lord this morning?
I'm sorry.